My name's Eli. I'm 32 and I've been cutting hair in the same shop on Main Street for the last 9 years. Most mornings start the same way. I wake up around 7:30 in the apartment above Rosie's Diner, where the smell of bacon grease and burnt coffee seeps through the floorboards before my alarm even goes off. I make instant coffee in a chipped mug with the Portland Sea Dogs logo fading off the side. Stand at the window overlooking the harbor and watch the fishing boats head out while the gulls scream their complaints into the gray morning air. By 8:15, I'm downstairs unlocking the shop. The sign above the door says Hayes and Son Barbershop in faded gold letters, though it's been just me for the last 6 years. My old man ran this place for 30 years before his heart gave out. Dropped dead in the back room folding towels on a Tuesday afternoon. The EMTs said he was gone before he hit the floor. I found him when I came back from lunch. Some days I still expect to see him sitting in the corner chair, reading the paper with his readers perched on the end of his nose, muttering about the state of the world. The shop's small. 2 chairs, 2 stations, 1 long mirror running the length of the wall. The floor's black and white checkered tile, cracked in places with grooves worn smooth where decades of feet have walked the same path from door to chair to register. There's a vintage Coca-Cola clock on the wall that's been running 10 minutes fast since 1987. A shelf of old barbering tools behind glass that no one uses anymore, and a bench by the window where customers sit and flip through magazines or scroll their phones while they wait. The place smells like barbicide, cheap aftershave, and the sea salt that drifts in every time someone opens the door. Out to the front window, you can see straight down Main Street to the harbor, where the boats bob and sway, masts clinking in the wind like distant bells. I keep my station clean. Clippers lined up by size, scissors sharp, combs soaking in the blue disinfectant solution, cape shaken out and ready. There's a small speaker on the shelf that plays whatever classic rock station comes in, clearest that day. Springsteen, Tom Petty, Eagles, the same rotation I've heard 1,000 times. My schedule's predictable and I like it that way. Mr. Collins comes in at 9 sharp every Monday. Retired mailman who still moves like someone's timing his route. Buzzcut, same as always. Talks about his grandkids and the Red Sox and how the town's going to hell because they put in a Starbucks where the hardware store used to be. Kenny Driscoll shows up Tuesdays after school, high school senior, who thinks a skin fade will make him look like he belongs in a rap video, even though he's a white kid from coastal Maine, whose idea of street cred is wearing his hat backwards. Wednesdays I get the walk-ins. Tourists who got lost on their way to Bar Harbor, lobstermen on shore leave, guys from the shipyard whose wives told them they looked like hell and sent them into town with $20 and instructions not to come home until they were presentable. Thursdays are slow. I catch up on cleaning, restock supplies, sit in the chair and scroll my phone, watch the boats. Fridays are mixed. Sometimes busy, sometimes dead. Depends on the weather, depends on the season, depends on whether people got paid that week or spent it all at the bar. I've been doing this long enough that I don't need to think about it anymore. The rhythm's automatic. Clippers, scissors, comb, brush, cape off, broom. Next customer. I can do a decent fade in 15 minutes, a traditional cut in 20, a beard trim in 10. I know how to small talk without saying anything that matters, how to nod at the right moments, how to make people feel like I'm listening even when I'm not. It's a good job, steady, simple. No one asks too many questions. No one asks why. A guy who used to play guitar in front of 200 people at dive bars in Portland is now sweeping hair off a cracked tile floor in a town where nothing ever happens. That was a different life. My brother Danny and I had a band. Nothing fancy. Just two guitars, a drummer we found on Craigslist, and a bassist who quit every 3 months and always came back. We called ourselves Northbound, which in retrospect was a pretty stupid name. But at the time, it felt like it meant something, like we were going somewhere. We played every shitty venue that would have us. Open mics, bar gigs, birthday parties. That one wedding where the groom's drunk uncle requested Freebird 6 times, and we finally just unplugged and left. We recorded demos in Danny's basement, posted them online, got a few hundred plays, told ourselves we were building something. We were good. Not great, but good. Danny had the voice, rough and honest, the kind of voice that made people stop talking and listen. I had the technical chops, could play leads that sounded like they meant something even when they didn't. We got an offer once, small indie label out of Boston, nothing huge, but real. Enough to record a proper album, book a regional tour, maybe open for some bigger acts. It was everything we'd been working toward. Then Danny died. Car accident on Route 1 just south of Camden. Black ice guardrail, gone. He was 28. I was 23. The funeral was on a Thursday. I played Wish You Were Here on acoustic, while people cried into tissues and said things like, he's in a better place, and at least he didn't suffer. I haven't played guitar in front of anyone since. After Danny died, I didn't know what to do. The band was done. The label moved on. Our drummer got a job at a brewery. The bassist joined a cover band that plays Jimmy Buffett songs at tourist bars. I moved back to the harbor, back to the apartment above Rosie's, back to the shop my dad still ran back then. He didn't say much when I showed up, just handed me a pair of clippers and said the second chair was mine if I wanted it. I took it. Turns out I'm pretty good at cutting hair. Turns out it's easier to focus on someone else's head than to think about the music that used to live in mine. There's a photo on the wall behind my station. Black and white, faded at the edges, stuck in a cheap drugstore frame. It's my dad cutting some guy's hair back in the 80s. Dad's got a thick mustache and feathered hair. The customer's got a mullet. And they're both grinning at the camera like they just told the best joke in the world. People always ask about it. That your old man? Yeah, ran this place for 30 years. He teach you to cut? Yeah. What I don't tell them is that there used to be another photo next to it. Color print, newer frame. Danny and me on stage at a bar in Portland, guitars slung low, sweat-soaked t-shirts, stage lights turning everything hazy and gold. The caption on the back said, Northbound, The Pier, last show 2019. That frame's in a box under my bed now, buried under old set lists and the last demo we recorded. Some things are easier to sweep off the floor than to look at every day. It was a Tuesday in late October when she walked in. Tuesdays are slow. The weekend cuts have grown out just enough to look tired, but not enough to bother most people. The tourists are gone, the locals are broke, and the light comes in low and soft through the front window, turning the dust in the air into something almost pretty. I just finished with Hank Bouchard, one of the harbor guys who smells like diesel and says about 6 words per visit. He paid in rumpled bills, nodded his thanks, and walked out with his collar turned up against the wind, rolling in off the water. I was sweeping up his hair, dark strands streaked with gray, like seaweed washed ashore, when the bell above the door let out its tired little jingle. I didn't look up right away. Be right with you, I said, automatic. Take your time. A woman's voice, low, rough around the edges. When I glanced up, I stopped mid-sweep. She stood just inside the door, one hand still on the handle, like she wasn't sure whether to stay or leave. Mid-40s, maybe older. Dark hair pulled back in a low knot. A few loose strands curling around her face from the damp. She wore a faded green field jacket, the kind that's seen weather and wear, with a small name tape still stitched above the chest pocket. Mercer. In her right hand, she held a wooden box about the size of a lunchbox, fingers gripped tight around the handle. Her left hand hovered near the dog tags hanging from her neck on a thin chain, not quite touching them, but close. What got me, though, was her eyes, brown, tired, and moving. Door, window, mirror, corners. The way her shoulders tensed when a truck rumbled past outside. The way her jaw tightened when the Coca-Cola clock ticked too loud. I knew that look. Not from here. From TV. From articles people share every November about soldiers who come home, but can't stop scanning for threats. About people who learn to survive war and then have to figure out how to survive peace. You need a cut? I asked, leaning the broom against the wall. She nodded once, sharp. If you've got time. Always got time on a Tuesday. I gestured to the chair. Have a seat. She crossed the floor slowly, deliberate, like she was measuring every step. Set the wooden box down carefully on the counter beside the chair, then sat with her back straight, boots flat on the tile, hands folded in her lap. I draped the cape over her shoulders and she flinched. Just a twitch, barely noticeable, but I caught it. Sorry, I said. Should have warned you. It's fine. Her voice was flat, controlled. I stepped back, gave her space. I'm Eli. Grace. First time in town? No. Been here about 6 months, just haven't needed a haircut till now. Her hair was past her shoulders, thick and dark, starting to gray at the temples. It looked like it hadn't been cut in a long time, maybe a year, maybe longer. What are we thinking? I asked. She reached up, touched the ends. Short, clean, nothing fancy. How short? Above the shoulders. Practical. I nodded. Practical. That was a word that meant something. I sectioned her hair, combed it out, started trimming. She sat perfectly still, hands gripped tight on the armrests, eyes locked on the mirror, but not really seeing it. The shop was quiet except for the snip of the scissors and the distant sound of the wind rattling the harbor rigging. After a few minutes, I tried again. You military? Her eyes flicked up to meet mine in the mirror. How'd you guess? Jacket tags. The way you checked the exits when you walked in. A ghost of a smile. Old habits. Army? Marines, 12 years. Deployed? 3 times, Afghanistan. I nodded, kept cutting. Thank you for your service. She didn't respond, just stared at the mirror. People always say that, thank you for your service. Like it's supposed to mean something. Like it makes up for whatever they saw, whatever they did, whatever they lost. I should have said something better. But I didn't know what, so I just kept cutting. When I finished, I brushed off her neck, held up a hand mirror so she could see the back. She glanced at it, nodded. Good, she said. That's good. I removed the cape and she stood, reaching for her wallet. 25, I said. She handed me 2 20s. Keep it. You sure? Yeah. She picked up the wooden box, held it close to her chest, and headed for the door. She paused with her hand on the handle, looked back. Thanks, she said. Anytime. The bell jingled as she left, and I watched through the window as she walked down Main Street towards the harbor, shoulders hunched against the wind, that box clutched tight in both hands. I didn't expect to see her again. 3 weeks later, she came back. It was a Thursday this time, late afternoon. The kind of gray November day where the sky and the sea blend into one endless sheet of cold. I was sitting in the chair scrolling through my phone, thinking about closing early, when the bell rang. Grace stood in the doorway, same jacket, same boots, same wooden box. Hey, I said, surprised. Back already? Hair grows, she said. Not that fast. She almost smiled. I like it short. Fair enough. Come on in. This time she didn't hesitate. Walked straight to the chair, set the box down, sat. I draped the cape and she didn't flinch. Progress. Same as last time, I asked. Yeah. I started cutting. For a while, neither of us said anything. Just the scissors, the clock, the wind. Then she spoke. You play guitar? I stopped mid-cut, looked at her reflection. What? She nodded toward the corner. There's a case back there, behind the shelf. I followed her gaze. Shit, I'd forgotten about that. An old gig bag shoved in the corner, half hidden behind a stack of towels. Used to, I said. Not anymore? Not in a long time. Why not? I resumed cutting, focused on the back of her neck. Lost interest. Bullshit. I blinked. Excuse me? That's bullshit, she said again, meeting my eyes in the mirror. People don't just lose interest in something they cared about enough to keep the guitar around. I didn't answer. She let it drop. We finished the cut in silence. When I was done, she paid, tipped again, and left without another word. But something had shifted. She started coming in every 2 weeks. Always Thursdays, always late afternoon, always the same cut. At first we didn't talk much. She'd sit, I'd cut, she'd pay, she'd leave. But gradually, in small increments, she started staying a little longer. Asking a question here, answering one there. I learned she lived alone in a cabin about 3 miles outside town. Up a dirt road that turned to mud when it rained. No neighbors, no visitors. Just her and the woods and whatever ghosts she'd brought back from Afghanistan. She didn't work. Disability from the VA, she said. Enough to get by, not enough to do much else. What do you do all day? I asked once. Try not to lose my mind, she said. It wasn't a joke. I learned she had nightmares. Bad ones. The kind that left her staring at the ceiling for hours, afraid to close her eyes again. I learned she avoided crowds. Grocery shopping at 6 a.m. when the store was empty. Gas station at night. The diner only when it was dead. I learned she'd been seeing a therapist at the VA in Portland, an hour's drive each way, every other week. Does it help? I asked. Some days, she said. Other days I could tell it didn't. It was mid-December when I finally asked about the box. She just sat down, set it on the counter like always, and I couldn't hold back anymore. What's in there? I asked. She looked at the box, then at me. For a long moment, I thought she wasn't going to answer. Then she opened it. Inside was a folded American flag, a purple heart medal, a set of dog tags that weren't hers, and a photo, worn at the edges, creased down the middle, of her and another Marine, both in fatigues, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning like they owned the world. That's Corporal Emma Reyes, Grace said quietly. My best friend. She was 24. I didn't need to ask. IED, Grace said, her voice flat. Helmand Province, 2017. She was 3 weeks from rotating home. She traced a finger over the photo, careful like it might disintegrate. I was supposed to be in that vehicle, she said. I switched shifts with her because I had a headache, a fucking headache. Her hand was shaking. Grace, I wake up every morning wondering why I'm still here and she's not. Her voice cracked just slightly. Every single morning. I set down the scissors, pulled up the stool beside the chair, sat. That wasn't your fault, I said. I know. She closed the box, held it tight. Doesn't make it easier? We sat there for a while, not talking, just existing in the same space. The light outside had gone soft and gray, and the shop felt smaller, quieter, like the rest of the world had disappeared. Finally, she spoke again. Your brother, she said. The one in the photo you don't have anymore. What happened? I should have been surprised she knew, but I wasn't. Car accident, I said. 6 years ago, black ice. You blame yourself. It wasn't a question. Yeah, I said. Why? I was supposed to drive that night. We just finished a gig in Portland. I was too tired, so Danny said he'd drive. If I'd just... Stop, she said. That's not how it works. Isn't it? She turned to look at me, really look at me. You think if you'd driven, you'd both be alive. But maybe you'd both be dead. Maybe only you'd be dead. Maybe it would have happened a different night, a different road. You can what if yourself to death, Eli. Trust me, I've tried. I swallowed hard. The therapist tells me the same thing, she said. That guilt's a way to hold on. That if we can blame ourselves, we can convince ourselves we had control. But we didn't. We don't. So what do we do? I asked. She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know yet, she said, but I'm trying to figure it out. Winter hit hard that year. Snow piled up along Main Street. The harbor froze at the edges, and the cold settled in like it planned to stay forever. Business slowed to a crawl. Some days, I'd sit in the shop for hours without a single customer. Grace kept coming, though, every 2 weeks like clockwork. Sometimes for a trim, sometimes just to sit and talk. She told me about boot camp, about her deployments, about the friends she'd made and the ones she'd lost. She told me about coming home and feeling like an alien in her own country, about the way people looked at her when she flinched at loud noises, about the way "thank you for your service" started to sound like an insult. I told her about the band, about Danny, about the label deal that died with him. I told her about the guitar I hadn't touched in 6 years, about the songs still living in my head with nowhere to go. One afternoon in January, she brought coffee from Rosie's. 2 cups, cream and sugar, still hot. Figured you could use it, she said. We sat in the chairs, her in the customer chair, me in mine, drinking bad diner coffee and watching the snow fall outside. You ever think about playing again? She asked. Sometimes. What stops you? Fear, I guess. That it won't feel the same. That it'll just make everything hurt worse. She nodded. I get that. What about you? I asked. You ever think about going back? Re-enlisting? She laughed bitter. Every day, at least over there, I knew who I was. Here, I'm just lost. You're not lost. How do you know? Because you keep showing up, I said. That's not what lost people do. She looked at me for a long time, something unreadable in her eyes. You're a good guy, Eli, she said quietly. I'm really not? Yeah, she said. You are. February brought the announcement. The town was organizing a Veterans Day event. Late because the original November event got snowed out, to honor local vets and raise money for the VA. There'd be speeches, a parade, a reception at the Legion Hall, and they wanted live music. Rosie cornered me at the diner one morning, coffee pot in hand, and wouldn't let me leave until I agreed to at least think about it. You used to play all the time, she said. The whole town loved you boys. That was Danny, I said. Not me. It was both of you. She refilled my cup without asking. And it'd mean a lot to folks, especially the vets. I thought about Grace, about the way she carried Emma's memory in that wooden box, the way she couldn't let go but couldn't move forward either. I'll think about it, I said. I didn't tell Grace about the event. Didn't want her to feel obligated, didn't want to put that kind of pressure on her. But she found out anyway. Small towns don't keep secrets. And the next time she came in, she brought it up. You playing? She asked. I don't know. You should. Why? Because hiding doesn't help, she said. Trust me. I'm not hiding. She raised an eyebrow. Okay, maybe I'm hiding a little. A little? A lot. She smiled. A real smile. The first I'd seen from her. Play, she said. It'll be good for you. Will you be there? I asked before I could stop myself. Her smile faded. I don't do crowds, Eli. I know, but maybe you could try. For one night. She looked away. I don't know if I can. That's okay, I said. No pressure. But I hoped she would. The event was scheduled for the last Saturday in February. I spent 2 weeks digging the guitar out of its case, restringing it, relearning calluses I'd lost years ago. My fingers ached. My playing was rusty. But slowly, the muscle memory came back. I didn't tell anyone what I was working on. Just closed the shop early a few nights. Went upstairs and played until my hands cramped. I wrote a song. It wasn't anything fancy. Just 3 chords, a simple melody, and words about people trying to find their way home when home doesn't feel like home anymore. About carrying weight that no one else can see. About learning to forgive yourself for still being here. I called it Still Here. The night before the event, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Danny, about the last time I'd played in front of people, about the way Grace's hands shook when she talked about Emma. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Grace. "I'm trying." That was all it said. I stared at it for a long time, then typed back, "Me too." The Legion Hall was packed. Folding chairs crammed shoulder to shoulder, standing room only at the back, American flags and bunting draped across the walls. The whole town had turned out. Veterans in their old uniforms, families with kids, retirees who'd lived through Vietnam and Korea and World War II. I stood backstage, a term way too generous for the little curtained-off area behind the makeshift stage, holding my guitar and trying not to throw up. Rosie found me back there, put a hand on my shoulder. "You're going to be great," she said. "I might pass out, then pass out after the song." She squeezed my shoulder and left. They called my name. I walked out onto the stage, guitar in hand, and the applause hit me like a wave. I sat on the stool they'd set up, adjusted the mic, and looked out at the crowd. And then I saw her, Grace. She was standing at the very back, near the exit, half hidden behind a support beam. She wore the same green jacket, the same boots, and she looked terrified. But she was there. Our eyes met. She nodded. I took a breath, placed my fingers on the strings, and started to play. The first chord rang out, clean and clear, and suddenly I wasn't scared anymore. I was just there, present, playing. I sang. My voice cracked on the first line, steadied on the second, and by the chorus, I'd found my rhythm. The song poured out of me. All the grief and guilt and hope I'd been carrying for 6 years, condensed into 3 minutes of melody and truth. When I finished, the room was silent. Then someone clapped. Then everyone did. I looked for Grace, but she was gone. I found her outside, sitting on the curb in the parking lot, arms wrapped around her knees. "Hey," I said. She looked up, and I saw tears on her face. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah." She wiped her eyes, laughed a little. That was really beautiful, Eli. You left before it ended." "I know. It was too much. The crowd, the noise, the everything. But I heard it, all of it." I sat down beside her on the cold pavement. "Thank you," I said, "for coming. I know that was hard." "Thank you for playing," she said. "I know that was hard too." We sat there for a while, not talking, just breathing. "I think Emma would have liked it," she said quietly. "The song." "Yeah. Yeah, she always said music was the only thing that made sense when nothing else did." I nodded. "Danny used to say the same thing." Grace looked at me. "You think they'd be proud of us for still trying?" "I think they'd kick our asses if we didn't." She laughed, a real, genuine laugh, and it was the best sound I'd heard in years. Spring came slowly, but it came. The snow melted, the harbor thawed, and the boats started going out again. The shop got busier. Grace kept coming every 2 weeks, and sometimes we'd grab coffee after, sit on the bench outside, and watch the world go by. She started going to a support group for veterans, said it helped, talking to people who understood. I started playing guitar again. Not gigs, not yet, but open mic nights at a bar in the next town over. Small steps. One Thursday in April, Grace came in without the wooden box. I noticed immediately. "Where's the box?" I asked. "Home," she said. "I think it's time to let it rest for a while." "You sure?" "No, but I'm trying." I smiled. That's all any of us can do. We didn't fix each other. That's not how it works. Grace still had nightmares. still avoided crowds, still carried guilt that would probably never fully go away. I still missed Danny, still wondered what could have been, still had days where the guitar stayed in its case because picking it up hurt too much. But we learned something important. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's not about moving on or getting over it. It's about learning to carry the weight without letting it crush you. It's about showing up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. It's about finding someone who understands that some scars don't heal. They just become part of who you are. And maybe that's enough. One Saturday in May, the first really warm day of the year, Grace showed up at the shop with 2 coffees and an idea. "Let's go to the beach," she said. "Now? Why not?" I locked up, and we drove out to Pemaquid Point, parked, and walked down to the rocks. The ocean was calm, the sun was bright, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt possible. We sat on the rocks, drank our coffee, and watched the waves. "I'm thinking about getting a dog," Grace said. "Yeah?" "Yeah. Something to keep me company. Give me a reason to get out of the house." "That's a good idea. You should play more shows," she said. "You're good. People should hear you." "Maybe." "Definitely." We sat in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that only happens when you've been through hell and found someone willing to sit in the ashes with you. "Hey, Eli," Grace said after a while. "Yeah? I'm glad you didn't close early that Tuesday." I smiled. "Me too." Have you ever met someone who reminded you that healing doesn't mean forgetting? It means learning to carry the weight together? Someone who showed up when it mattered most, even when it was hard? Drop a comment and share your story. If this one hit home, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about second chances, quiet courage, and finding your way back to hope.